Exciting news today. I've got beer. But even more exciting is that my new pannier racks have arrived from Donovan over in India, and I'm going to have a go at installing them. The racks came by DHL and arrived really quickly. They left Mumbai and arrived in Sydney in 4 days, so it was amazing. They're pretty well wrapped up, so I'm just going to carefully try and cut this plastic off without scratching the paint on them at all. And then we'll have a look what we got. Get our second layer off. They've certainly been thoroughly wrapped, so that's nice. Got them here safely. Well, here we go. One set of pannier racks landed safely in Sydney. So we'll go over to the bike now and have a go at installing them. I don't really know how these install, but I'm imagining it's going to be pretty straightforward. So we'll go and have a look sort of roughly how they fit, and we'll go from there. The racks mount on by replacing these top two Allen key bolts and then using this other hole down here by the pillion passenger's footrest. So they sort of go on in this orientation. And they make quite a nice sort of parallel line with the back seat here, so they look quite nice fitted. The first thing I'm going to do is take these top two Allen key bolts out. With the racks came some more 6mm bolts, they look like, which are just longer than the original ones. This side unit's just hanging by the seat release cable, so that's fine. I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on these bolts, just near the tips of them. I'm also just going to put this bottom one through. Even just loosely, just the bolt in, just to take the weight of it a bit. There isn't a huge amount of weight in them, but it just controls it a bit more as you're trying to get the bolts for the top one started. Because the top two bolts are just replacing these Allen key bolts, they just go straight into thread that's inside the bike frame. The bottom one has a nut that goes with it, so I'm just going to put a little bit of Loctite on that too. I'm just going to tighten these up a little bit, but I'm going to leave the whole thing reasonably loose until I've got the back brace on that ties the two together as well. Similar idea on the other side, except this time we'll have the exhaust to contend with, so I'll show you that. I got back from a ride about half an hour ago, so the exhaust's warm, but it's not bad to touch. Just be careful if you have ridden recently, you don't burn yourself doing this part. You can see here the bolt holding the exhaust on has got plenty of spare thread on it. So I'm going to undo this nut, take the bolt out, put the bracket on, and then just put the existing bolt back in. This is a 12mm head on the bolt and a 12mm nut. The exhaust hangs nicely enough with that bolt out, so now I'm just going to get these top two Allen bolts out. This side doesn't hang by that release lock cable, so I'm just going to take it off completely for now. A little bit of Loctite on the bolts again. Then I'm going to feed these through the rack. Then once they're through the rack, I'll put them through the factory bracket. And then we'll line them up. All I'm looking to do at this stage is get those bolts started. Now I'm just going to feed this bolt through the rack, through the bike frame, then into the exhaust mounting. So through the rack, through the frame of the bike, then I'll just lift the exhaust up until I can push it all the way through. And there we go. And then I'll just loosely put the nut on the back again. Now I'm just going to tighten these top bolts up a bit more. Be careful you haven't got these cross-threaded, because it is the thread inside the bike, and if you damage it, then it's a lot harder to replace than a nut or whatever. So just do these by hand till they're clearly threaded, then start tightening them. The final piece of the puzzle is this brace that goes around the back and just stops them moving in and out towards the wheel. I'm just going to pop one side on and put the nut on first. And then I'm going to have to flex things a little bit to get this side on, which is why I've kept it all a little bit loose. Once this back bracket's on, that's when I can go and button everything down and tighten it up. So just push that one through. Nut on the back. Once again, I'm just putting a couple of drops of Loctite on the thread before I do the nuts up. I'll tighten these back ones up fully first. Now I'm just going to go around and tighten up all the other bolts we put in that mount the racks to the bike. I'm just going to tighten them up in a bit of a sequence just so they come down evenly, so nothing's sort of skew-if. I don't really have a torque setting for you, but with these top bolts, I'm looking to get them tight. So I'm going to get them snug, then maybe put just like another 1/16 of a turn, just enough to sort of put a little stretch in it, keep it snug, stop it coming undone, but not enough to strip it. And really we're done. They feel really solid, and I think they look pretty sweet too. I'll give you a look around. So this is what they look like on. Another thing I really like about these racks is when you've got your panniers on, this could be down. And then when they're not, you can fold that up. Maybe that's a really nice feature of them. When they're up, you can see the bike keeps a really narrow profile still if you're filtering between traffic or whatever. And then down, they're out like this. The hinges seem really strong too. They've got a nice positive feel to them, which is good. The saddlebags I'd like to use are these long rider ones from Royal Enfield. They're not really designed for the Himalayan though. Because the Himalayan's wider, they're designed more to fit onto a bullet or something like that. So what I'm thinking I'm going to need to do is modify this centre section that allows me to get the bags in position. I may even change this centre section to some straps that I can put under the seat instead of on top of it. If I made it with straps instead of this solid centre section, it would also mean that the pillion passenger would still have use of these handles and things like this. So I'm going to put my thinking cap on for a while because I really want to make sure I've got a solid plan before I start cutting into them and sewing them. But I really would like to try and make these work with the Himalayan, and particularly with these racks. Donovan's given me some recommendations for panniers and bags that work really well with these racks, so I'll look into those if I need to, but I'm going to have a go at trying to get these to work first, so I'll keep you posted how I go with that. Well, that about wraps it up for today. I'm really happy now I can see the racks on the bike. I think they fit really well, they sit in nice and snug. I think they're going to be really strong. They're made from powder-coated stainless steel, so I think they're going to last a long, long time, which is something I always look for. If you're going to spend the money, then you want to make sure you're getting the quality, and these seem to have that quality. The next thing I'm going to do is reinforce the rack for this top box before that breaks, because I've heard there are problems. And I'm hoping to do a bit of a clever reinforcement that also gives me somewhere I can move the indicators to make them a little bit more visible when I've got the saddlebags in place. So I'll keep you posted on that one as well over the coming weeks. All right, take care, safe riding, and I'll see you soon.